Porter's 5 Forces model for the auto industry. 3.0 Introduction to the auto industry. The car manufacturing sector originated due to the emergence of new energy sources like gasoline and steam that could be utilized to propel engines. The automotive business has evolved significantly since then, with continual innovation and fierce rivalry. The rivalrous nature of the car mobile manufacturing sector is due to new types of automobiles being introduced daily. Self-driving vehicles and other simpler versions that do not rely on gasoline and diesel fuels are now being developed by engineering teams worldwide. There are 13 car manufacturers in the United States, but just 3 firms dominate the manufacturing of lightweight vehicles. The 3 firms account for about 46% of all lightweight vehicle sales. These corporations are Ford Motor Company, Chrysler, and General Motors. America is also a significant market for Japanese automobiles, such as those manufactured by Honda and Toyota. When it comes to the car business, strategic management assists firms in establishing long-term corporate result goals, such as expanding into new market sectors, controlling costs, and diversification. Fuertes et al. 2020. Furthermore, these firms evaluate their internal and external development to determine whether or not they are on track to accomplish their strategic objectives. The strategic analysis serves as a check on the organization's ability to compete in the marketplace. Even though the automobile sector continues to add considerably to the economy's GDP, buyers have switched their preferences to more fuel-efficient automobiles in recent years. The forecast for the American automotive industry is positive. The positivity indicates that there are future prospects that more consumers would want to purchase automobiles from an American manufacturer. 3.1 Industry definition. The automotive industry of the U.S. can be referred to as the general manufacturers group who are in charge of designing, building, marketing, and selling both automobiles and their spare parts. Customer tastes and trends heavily influence the American automobile business. Since 2008, the sector has been under pricing pressure due to shifts in consumer purchasing habits and increases in raw material costs. An increase in yearly sales of more than 18 million cars has occurred in the automotive sector, compared to the prior years since the economic downturn of 2015. Bastikis et al. 2020. The business is facing increased external competition from the public transportation sector. The competition is a result of customers shifting away from public transportation and toward personal private automobiles. The industry is being shaped by trends such as a desire for sport utility vehicles and pickup trucks. As a result of the trends, businesses must reduce their output of passenger vehicles. More individuals will be in demand for dependable and technologically advanced automobiles because the unemployment rate is below 5%. 3.2 Industry profile. The scale and expansion of the American car industry and consolidations to enhance competitiveness are all factors to consider. The firms have also made worldwide investments. The investments have resulted in the 3 significant corporations expanding their operations. The expansion has been made by acquiring other automobile companies outside of the United States. There are many obstacles to overcome in the business. There is a need to develop economically viable electric and hybrid cars. There is also a need to meet up with the high operating expenses and oil prices and growing globalization. As competition for talent and innovation grows across the labor market, such changes in employment practices are becoming more common. Sales of automobiles peak between April and June, with a trough occurring between November and January, according to the seasonal sales trend, Shahabuddin, 2009. The current market share is held by General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler. International businesses like Hyundai, Nissan, and Toyota also compete, holding 11.4%, 8.1%, and 15.6%, correspondingly. Hill et al. 2015. Customers are increasingly demanding smaller, more fuel-efficient, and hybrid vehicles that produce minimal amounts of carbon dioxide. The current demands are now what prompts automakers to develop more advanced models. However, the global auto industry is very capital and labor demanding. In recent years, additional expenses on human resources, marketing costs and raw materials has impeded the penetration of United States automakers into emerging countries. 3.3 Industry market structure. The car business in the United States employs more than 1 million people in various capacities, like manufacturing, assembling, and sales. The shifts in consumer tastes and economic cycles have made the market structure experience significant transformations. These transformations have resulted in layoffs and the offshore outsourcing of employment to reduce costs. In addition, the market has been defined by the production of parts by international businesses in other nations before being imported into the United States. In the USA, the automobile industry has turned out to be an oligopolistic market. Its oligopolistic nature arises as a result of it being controlled by a limited number of manufacturers. The activities of the manufacturers tend to have a direct impact on the earnings of their competitors. In the United States, only 8 companies account for 86% of the automobile market, Schultz et al., 2019. The fate of all companies is intertwined because the market is oligopolistic. The impact of the intertwined fate of the companies was seen during the financial crisis of 2008 when the major corporations were forced to seek government assistance. In addition, there are a few features of monopolistic competition in the market. Automobile manufacturers compete based on price and brand. There is a high level of consistency in production, so the market rivalry is generally fierce. The rivalry makes marketing and advertising to diverse market groups critical and time-consuming. The automobile sector is also somewhat protected by high hurdles to entry. The hurdles result from the high expenses of promotion and marketing and the high costs of vehicle research and manufacturing. 3.4 Future outlook. Based on current market conditions and technological advancements being implemented by firms, it is reasonable to predict that the future of the U.S. automobile sector is bright. Since 2010, the sales statistics for automobile manufacturers have grown substantially, considerably due to the large corporations' efforts to clean up their balance sheets and reduce restructuring expenses, Hill et al., 2015. Certain companies with promising futures, such as Ford, have emphasized hybrid, fuel-efficient, and alternative gas-powered vehicles. There is the tremendous growth potential for the firms involved with the use of new technology, such as digitalization and wireless networks, to enhance navigation, entertainment, and safety. In addition, the businesses are trying to capitalize on possibilities in emerging markets like China, India, and Brazil to outperform the Japanese manufacturers in terms of market share. Offshoring is expected to benefit industry participants since it will reduce expenses due to the availability of low-cost labor. Furthermore, the target markets are seeing a significant expansion in the middle class, which will raise the demand for light cars even more. Since production will take place on the grounds of their franchisees, the firms will also benefit from lower logistical expenses for delivering trucks and automobiles. Because of their extensive product plans, companies like Honda, Ford, and General Motors are projected to have increased sales in the coming year. However, ride-sharing services such as Uber and Lyft will threaten the industry's profitability in the future. BusinessWire, 2020. 4.0 Porter's 5 Forces Strategy Analysis. According to Bruegel, 2018, organizations utilize the strategy analysis of Porter's 5 Forces to assess their competitiveness in their respective sectors. The strategy analysis enables the organizations to decide whether or not they are a danger to their profitability. Buyer bargaining power, competitor rivalry, threats of new entrants by rivals, pricing pressure from replacements or complementary items, and supplier negotiating power are some of the elements that influence the market. The Porter 5 Forces analysis would give a strategic perspective on the competitive environment in which the American car industry operates. As a result, firms would have the ability to evaluate how their strengths and capabilities influence positive outcomes in the industry. It is possible to analyze a business's competitive forces by using Porter's 5 Forces study. Porter's 5 Forces determine the attractiveness of an industry based on its capacity to enhance profitability. Porter, 1985. In addition to providing a study of the present condition of the industry, these factors also provide an assessment of the viability of either continuing operations in the general car industry or entering the market as a newbie. Everything involved in the automobile industry is interconnected, including transportation, raw materials, technologies, production and distribution, labor, and research and development. The power of suppliers, buyers, and competitors is what ultimately determines the success of the industry as a whole. Thomas and Kandaswamy, 2015. 4.1 Bargaining power of buyers. The purchaser's capacity to affect the actions of a manufacturer and the price of a product or service is referred to as the bargaining power of buyers. Uchil and Yazdanifard, 2014. Buyers' negotiating power, on the other hand, varies depending on whatever industry they are in. In response to the standardization of automobiles, the number of replacement product lines available on the market has risen, enhancing the bargaining power of customers. Additionally, because the transactional costs are so low, the buyer has the option of switching to a competitor's goods. As previously said, an American manufacturer must have a good relationship with its customers. A healthy relationship can expand sales and is governed by the negotiating power of those who purchase the vehicle. Consumers, on the other hand, are determined to retain their automobiles for a more extended time. The attitude of the consumers forces manufacturers to become more inventive in their manufacturing and marketing strategies. The capacity of buyers to influence the car market has resulted in a change in emphasis away from gas guzzlers and toward more economical models. Uchil and Yazdanifard, 2014. Consumers have a modest amount of influence in this industry because of the largely uniform nature of the automobile commodity. Furthermore, the frequent switching costs associated with acquiring a car model from one of the industry's rival brands demonstrate that customers wield significant influence in the automobile business. However, market trends imply that the American automobile industry will continue to be moderately dominant due to the high ratio of consumers to producers. Despite this, buyers will experiment with foreign automobiles due to their discontent with what is available on the domestic market in the United States. In addition, because they do not purchase large quantities of automobiles, the sector is characterized by price-sensitive consumers with limited purchasing power. However, because public transportation is restricted to metropolitan areas, the negotiating power of the consumer is somewhat limited. As a result, private automobiles are a necessity for the majority of Americans. Furthermore, the oligopolistic character of the industry, in which 8 businesses dominate over 85% of the market, limits the purchase alternatives available to customers. 4.2 Bargaining power of suppliers. The negotiating power of the provider is defined by their price influence capabilities in the market. Bruegel, 2018. Among the providers in this business are companies that manufacture and supply car parts such as windows, electronics, and tires, among other things. Due to their nominal size compared to the automakers, suppliers have limited influence over the market's pricing structures. Dealerships are under pressure to preserve positive working ties with automakers because suppliers have little negotiating strength. The suppliers in the American automotive industry have limited bargaining strength because they rely on only 1 or 2 automakers to acquire the majority of their products. As a result, they are subject to changes in demand and the demands of the manufacturers. Many companies participate in the car supply sector so that the industry might be characterized as fragmented. The business of the prior supplier would be destroyed if the company switched suppliers. The automakers have strong bargaining power, which allows them to easily dictate the conditions to their suppliers without fear of being outbid. Automotive parts have turned out to be standardized commodities that can only be utilized in automobiles. It is only manufacturers who can assess how much demand there is for them in the market. Bruegel, 2018. The vehicle's lifespan impacts the supply of spare parts because the longer a car is in operation, the more frequently it will require replacing spare components to keep it running. On the other hand, producers are producing longer-lasting components, which is hurting the profitability of component manufacturers. The suppliers have relatively little leverage in pricing negotiations with customers because they account for such a small market proportion. As labor providers to the auto sector, unions had considerable negotiating strength, but the economic collapse of 2008 limited their ability to bargain for higher wage rates with employers. Automakers have been able to increase their earnings because labor unions' negotiating strength has been diminished. 4.3 Competitive rivalry in the industry. Although there are many significant participants in the U.S. automobile sector, competition is fierce. Furthermore, international companies are expanding their operations into the United States market and obtaining a significant percentage of market share. Market share has been reduced due to the diversity of competition from foreign enterprises since corporations actively compete to obtain market share and therefore avoid significant losses in market share in the process. Bruegel, 2018. As a result of the competition, the amount spent on advertising and promotion has grown. The level of competition in the sector has also increased because of the enormous fixed costs involved with car production and the low switching costs experienced by customers. Since price-based competition does not result in a rise in market share size, the car industry is an oligopoly, which helps to reduce the impacts of price-based competition. For this reason, to attract clients' interest, the competition offers rebates, long-term warranties, and preferential financing options, among other incentives. There is fierce competition in the business because automakers change their models regularly. On the other hand, changes in models might result in delays, which can raise expenses and hinder the growth of income. The level of competition in the car sector has grown significantly because most international businesses operate within the United States market. Toyota, Nissan, and Honda are among the businesses gaining market share from U.S. corporations, Khurshid et al. 2000. Honda, Nissan, and Toyota sell over 3 million light-duty automobiles yearly. Research has shown that foreign automobile makers might control over a quarter of the United States market share within the next decade. 4.4 Threat of new entrants. A large amount of cash is required to establish a motor vehicle firm, increasing the barriers to entry. The sector is distinguished by highly specialized production facilities difficult to bring back to life after being closed. Organizations are entering the market through strategic alliances, buyouts, and mergers, among other entry methods. Several foreign organizations have gone global. They now enter the markets of the United States of America with different success levels. For example, Honda and Toyota have specialized in producing and marketing light-duty automobiles in the United States, Khurshid et al. 2000. In recent years, these businesses have developed superior technology, as demonstrated by the Toyota Prius, which has reduced the market share of the significant three corporations, Bruegel, 2018. As more giant corporations enter the U.S. market, they require significant management, capital, technological know-how, and marketing expertise, putting the domestic market at risk as larger corporations expand into the U.S. market. Porter, 1979. With the use of data on yearly sales of the United States firms and their competitors, the United States companies must discover worldwide prospects and analyze their competitors' market entry and incursion tactics. Some companies have penetrated the United States market by employing a low-cost, high-quality approach. They manufacture dependable vehicles capable of enduring long distances. Aside from that, the business has low returns because of how fierce and expensive the competition is. The costly competition forces local enterprises to adapt and become flexible to compete successfully. U.S. automakers must influence the switching cost of customers through activities on social media and promoting brand loyalty within the consumer community. Salwan, 2011. 4.5 Threat of substitutes. Substitutes are equivalent to the product in issue and offer similar functions as the product in question. The danger of replacements in the American automotive business has been quite strong because several alternative forms of transportation are readily available. Bruegel, 2018. On the other hand, these forms of transportation do not give the same level of convenience and utility value as road transportation. Furthermore, the switching costs associated with other means of transportation, such as train and air, are significant in terms of the amount of personal time required. Bicycles, walking, and public transportation are all viable alternatives in an urban context, and they are all less expensive than personal automobiles when contrasted to the high cost of gasoline. Factors such as race, location, religion, and social status all influence the decision to purchase a motor vehicle. Other options include ride-sharing companies such as Uber and Lyft, which can be used as replacements. Tirikini, 2019. Furthermore, replacements do not have to be new cars to compete with older vehicles. Used vehicles also serve as a source of competition in the automotive market. The threat of replacements improves the buyer's negotiating power because a customer who wishes to acquire a particular car model may use knowledge about the pricing and specifications of a foreign rival to negotiate a lower purchasing price with the manufacturer. Additionally, the greater the cost of running a car, the more probable it is that customers will choose alternate modes of transportation to go around. For example, if gasoline prices rise, sales of sports utility vehicles may decline since they consume more petrol than smaller cars. As Bruegel, 2018, argues, the availability of alternatives is also influenced by other variables such as personal preferences, financial resources, and time constraints, as well as industry-specific characteristics such as convenience. 5.0 Conclusion. The American car business is defined by just three large corporations that control more than 60% of the market share. An examination of the Porter 5 Force approach reveals a compelling framework for enabling businesses in the sector to survive and thrive in a competitive environment. However, to maintain their market share in the region, American companies must confront the challenge posed by foreign corporations and alternative goods like platforms that share rides, Uber and Lyft, trains, and bicycle riding, etc. As a result, this study reveals the approaches that would assist in resolving the obstacles. The issue of buyer and supplier negotiating power must be addressed by the industry participants. Also, competitive rivalry must also be addressed by the players in the industry. According to Porter's research, if the industry participants handle the existing challenges, the industry will run its operations more effectively, resulting in increased market share and a more extensive clientele base. As customers try to maintain market viability and dynamics, businesses must create ways to address and face competition to remain competitive. According to the findings, the industry appears to be unpromising, although the short term appears to be positive, while the long-term profitability appears to be unstable. The sector's profitability appears to be decreasing with time since the market is characterized by high barriers to entry, threats to buyer bargaining power, and moderate to high levels of fierce competition.